Thank you for coming and finding me after that trek up the stairs, and coming to listen all about money, because I know it's not always everyone's favourite subject. So let's talk about money. Today I wanted to talk about one of my clients. So Graham, hello. Sorry. That's okay. The more the merrier. Graham wanted to be able to take more money from his studio. He was in debt with HMRC and he was struggling to see a way out. I feel a bit nervous, so I'm looking at my notes. So one thing we looked at was his pricing, and he hadn't increased his price for 5 years. And by doing that, his price wasn't where it should be. So I asked him to go and look at the competitors. Not that you should price according to the competitors, but it is a really important point just to see where they are, and then you can compare location, equipment, your offering, etc. So he is a CrossFit studio, so they obviously tend to be priced at the higher point. And when he looked into it, he was £20 a month less than pretty much everyone within a certain radius. And hello. Yes, less than £20 a month within a certain radius. So I asked him, well, what do you need to do then to be able to put your price in line with their prices? And he was just silent. He's like, nothing. I've got better equipment, newer equipment. I've got better staff who run the CrossFit training. I offer better service. My gym or my studio is just as good as theirs, if not better. It's like, okay, so why is it less money than the other competitors? And if you think, he had about 120 members at the time, and at £20 a month, you're looking at near on £2,500 a month. He was taking less than the competitor because he hadn't increased his price in 5 years. And if you look at that over a year, that's an awful lot of money just by not putting your prices up. So we started to look into what was preventing him increasing his price. And logically, as you can see, he would know that he should increase his price. But the last time, so 5 years prior, they increased their price, and it caused a lot of stress and worry. The members moaned a lot. It really caused his wife a lot of stress. And at that point in life, he did not want that to happen again. And I could see the stress on his face, like to put his wife through that again, that's not what he wanted to do. But when we looked at the long-term implications, that was going to cause his wife far much more stress than maybe a little blip of a price increase. So we went back to logic. How many members can you lose if you increase your price? If you increase your price by £20 a month, how many members can you afford to lose and still have the same profit level? He could lose a fifth of his membership base and still make the same amount of money if he increased his price. So this helped him see that actually the risk wasn't quite as bad as he thought. His lead gen was really good, so he had quite good inquiries into the CrossFit studio and turning into actual members. So what he did was he increased it by 15. He couldn't quite bring himself to do it by 20. He increased the price by £15 a month for new members only. And lead gen actually didn't drop that much. So this proved to him that his price point was still good. And he could actually afford to lose more members because the lead gen was coming in. And when he then pushed it out to the current members, he did lose members. Some did moan, and some were not very nice at points, but they were prepared for that. And they had a plan in place, and they were ready for it. And also, they could see the long-term implications of doing nothing, and that far outweighed anything that the members could have said to them. So within 2 months, through lead gen, they actually got back up to the same membership level, but on the increased price. So he's now got more profit, sleeping better at night, feeling less stressed, just by putting this price increase through. And what was stopping him was the real fear around what the impact would be to his family. But the long-term impact to his family is far worse if he didn't increase his prices. So that's obviously not the only thing we did, but by him making that bold decision to go all in with a £15 a month increase, he then was more confident in making more bold decisions in his business. And some of the members had been requesting like open gym, so he didn't have open floor. And he introduced that as a premium offering, and all the members that had been requested it took it up. So instantly, he was quids in every single month with pretty much no extra work. So by making that first bold decision and looking at his numbers, it enabled him to make more and more bold decisions. And we're still working through it because there was a lot of past debt with HMRC, payment plans are now in place, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. So I produced booklets. They're not quite in the right order because I changed what I was saying, but I wanted you to just look in them at some point and then. So if I told you to increase your price by 20%, how would it make you feel? Would you be up for doing that? Or would they put the fear of God in you and you just wouldn't do it? But could you do it? Could you put your prices up 20%? And is that what you're telling yourself true? So when with my client, we went through, you can afford to lose a fifth of your membership base and still be taking the same amount of profit. But if he had just had an incremental price increase year on year, he would never have had to make those bold, massive jumps in price, and the members would be more used to the price increase. We're used to it with like Sky TV, we're used to it with our mobile phones, we're used to it with petrol, etc. So why are we not used to it with other things? Like my dad used to go to the gym when I was little, and he's paying like £20 a month. I mean, I'm 37 now. The price hasn't changed significantly for gyms. So that's the price increase. So I'm Debbie Hancock. I'm a chartered management accountant and financial coach. I work with a lot of gyms, fitness-based businesses, group PT, operators and consultants to the industry. I see the same problems come up time and time and time again. But the solution is not always the same because we each have different emotions and stories attached to the decisions we make. So today, I didn't want you to just come here and like sit down and nod along and think, oh yeah, she's talking sense, go away and continue to do the same thing because you get busy in your businesses. So I wanted audience participation. Yay! So I've produced workbooks. Admittedly, I have changed the order, so it's not in the exact right order, but you can either write your answers down, so I'm going to give you time to write answers down, or if anyone wishes to shout out and make me not feel so awkward, then great. So yeah, I wanted to make it something where you're actually getting benefit from the time and not kind of absorbing loads of information today, going away, getting absorbed back into your business and not making any changes. So what are you hoping to gain from today's talk? What made you all come here today?
One of the things that I'm really rubbish at is knowing my numbers. I'm dreadful at that. So that's it really. It's just a case of, I think if you understand where you're at in terms of your numbers,
yeah,
then you can make adjustments based on around the whole business, gauging the whole business.
That's it, yeah.
So more information on that really.
Okay, that's cool.
So you've got it in the back anyway by scanning these QR codes. Right?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, in the back of the book are the QR codes, and I'll talk about it at the end, where there's some free stuff, and then there's an offer for like a pre-sale offer. But that's what I wanted today, is just to get people talking and thinking about numbers and finances in their business, because you're not the only one. Like so many gym owners, so many business owners I come across, like that, they didn't study accounts, they didn't learn it at school, and they start a business because they're passionate at what they do and they're good at what they do. And then suddenly it's like, HMRC want this off you, and HMRC want that, and Companies House want this, and you're just like, what does that even mean? And then you've got accountants saying to you about profit and loss and balance sheets and break-even points. And it's like, what does that mean? So, oh, look, they didn't want to participate. They run off. Using those technical terms. So, yeah, thank you. One of my other clients, she came to me with wanting to make more profit in her business, but she was absolutely adamant that she did not want to increase her gym membership prices. She felt that they were at the right point for her location and what she was offering at the time. So we delved into her numbers more. We took a look at the costs. Where else could she maybe cut things and not impact the business? And what we came across was that she was selling water at a loss. And I know you might think that's silly, like it's just a bottle of water. But every bottle of water she sold was costing her money. So it wasn't generating her profit, it was costing her money because she was buying the water. Turns out she didn't realise she'd passed the VAT threshold. So suddenly there's VAT on the water. You got the staff cost, you got the overhead, you got the ordering the stock, keeping the stock, putting the stock in the fridge, all these costs associated with it, which meant that actually every bottle of water she was effectively paying for. So we looked at where in her business could she increase prices or change things. So one of the things we did was increase the price of water. We doubled it. And we looked at food and merchandise. She hadn't increased her sunbed price. I can't remember if it was 3 years. So that had to increase. And by doing all these little changes, we was able to generate more profit in her business. We then looked at some of the cost stuff. So could we pay for insurance up front? Could we pay for like Canva and Trello and various other things to basically take cost reductions on those? And when we were going through the numbers, I got her to do a stock take so we could understand where the business was. And it turns out that people were stealing the water. So at 50p, it's not like she was taking the mick with a price at 250 or something. Customers were stealing the water. And so when she took the stock take, actually, she was making a bigger loss than she thought on the water. And this is why it's so important to understand not just your business as a whole, but all the elements of your business, and are those elements profit generating or loss making? And I know we can have like loss leaders. You might run sessions to get people in and encourage them in. That's fine. That's a strategic decision to run a loss leading product or service to get people through the door. But when your business is just making losses and you don't know about that, that is not good. So you need to be able to look at your business. Each element of it's like the food, the drink. Are you doing like renting rooms out, PT, etc.? And one of my clients actually closed their really small cafe and changed it into like a physiotherapy room and rented it out. And that generated easier money and more money than the small cafe. And they just moved to like vending machine type things. So get financially fit. That's what I talk about. And what I mean by that is we want to look at your future. So your business, what do you want from it in the future? Is it your pension? What's your exit plan? If it is your exit plan, how much does it need to be worth to exit? And that's like a realistic value, a value that someone else is going to pay for it, not your emotions attached to it. And to increase the value, you're going to want processes in place. You're going to want to understand your numbers. You want to prove to someone that it's profitable. And only by understanding your numbers will you get to that point. Otherwise, they're just going to offer you potentially what the equipment's worth. So understanding your future of the business is really important. Then we talk about income, which is how much income do you need to take from the business? What tax strategies are you going to use? What business structure are you going to use? What personal tax are you going to pay? How much money do you need to take from the business every month, every year to live the life that you started this business for? And so many people come to me and they're like, I just want to get by. I just want to pay my bills. I don't want to live a luxurious life. And you're like, really? All the stress and the hassle and you just want to get by? Surely not. Surely you want a business that actually helps you and supports the life that you want. And thoughts is all around the stories and emotions that you're attaching to the decisions you're making. So you're not making logical decisions in your business quite often. They're emotional decisions. And by understanding those stories, you can start to become aware of them and then take logical decisions. So like my client he knew logically he had to increase the price, but his emotions were stopping him from doing so. So that's what I talk about when I talk about bringing financial strategy and mindset together, so you can actually take action in your business. Because if I said to him, increase your price by 20 quid a month, blah, 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 he's just going to go, no, and run in the other direction. I've said to others, like, create your cash forecast, and they're just like, back out the door. So it's understanding what's stopping you from doing that. So that's why I bring it all together. This client isn't actually a fitness client. He operates in a very, he's distracted me, very risky. Oi! He operates in a very risky industry. And he came to me because he wasn't sleeping at night. He was really worried that he was going to let his family down. He felt like the pressure was all on him because his business is so risky that if the economic or political climate changes significantly, his business will basically not exist. So he needed to create something for himself to feel comfortable. So what we did was we created basically a cash reserve personally. And to do that, we had to look at the structure of the business. So he had a £50 a month membership and a £250 a month membership. I couldn't really see the difference between them, apart from the people in the 50 quid a month were pains in the arses. They were messaging him out of hours, they were expecting instant replies, they moaned constantly, whereas the ones in the £250 a month membership didn't do that. So we actually closed down the £50 a month membership because you need 5 to every 1. And we moved some of them into the 250, and newcomers off his course went into that one. And by doing that and me showing him what a cash reserve could do for his confidence and his stress levels, he really became on board with it. So he started building his cash reserve now. We stopped coaching together a few months ago, and I spoke to him recently. He's about to hit a 50k month, so he's going to go VAT. He's obviously going VAT registered, and he's built that reserve in 6 months. And we were going to give him a year to build the cash reserve, which means that he's now happier. He's spending less time in his business, and yeah, by looking at his numbers and looking at the cash in the business, we were able to do that. I think I've missed out questions, but anyway. So your time, what do you invest your time in your business? Because you can see that he was spending a lot of time on the £50 a month contract members and not so much on the 250. So he's making a lot less profit, and his time was being wasted here when it could be here. So it's important to understand where you're spending your time in your business, and are you spending it in the right place? So do you think you're getting a good return on your time that you're spending in your business? Anyone?
No.
What could you do differently?
I think I understand where problems lie within the business, but as I said originally, it's partly down to not knowing where the figures are and where sort of we need to land in that respect. Putting up prices, not at the moment, but it's. I mean, we're sort of a more £150 a month place than anyway, so that would be difficult to do at this stage. But yeah, I don't get any benefit from the business at all. I don't earn a single penny.
That's very common.
I'm putting money in.
Yeah, that's very common.
It's costing me money to open the doors every day.
It's like a charity, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're sticking money in so your customers can go in and get fit. It's crazy. And so it could be like, instead of like putting your prices up, it might be looking at your costs and what's going for your business. And it might even be actually spending a bit more at one point to get systems and automations and things in place to then benefit in the future. So I use a VA at £35 an hour. She helps me produce all this stuff. But if I go out and earn more than that, then it's sort of a benefit to me. But I know when you're losing money, it's hard to look at it like that. So yeah, it could be looking at, are you getting a good return? How could you spend your money so you can better invest your time? So that like I said, pay my VA £35 an hour, and then that means I can go off and work in my consultancy roles, earning much more money than that. or come here for free and talk to everyone. This is my lost leader. So VAT registration, 2 of my clients came to me and they had exceeded VAT registration without even being aware of it. And so we had to get them VAT registered. We had to approach HMRC, potentially expecting penalties and fines. Luckily, they did not actually issue any penalties and fines for not declaring VAT registration. We just had to backdate it all. What we did get was very heavily investigated. And I don't know if that's because of the size of the claims, because we were claiming refunds of 18 to 20 grand, or I don't know if it was they basically thought we were in chaos, which they most definitely were in chaos. It took us months and months and months of receipt finding, etc., to do the VAT reclaim. So are you VAT registered? No? Yes? And how does going VAT registered make you feel? Does it make you feel like that?
No, 20% of your income just disappears. And I know each quarter as it goes up, you're like, yeah, that's a good thing. It's really a good thing.
I've got a question. Is it better to go flat rate back?
It depends, which is a typical accountant answer. It really depends on how much VATable costs are going for your business. So if a business has got high lease costs or rent, if they've got VAT on their rent, then it's more likely that they would be suited to standard rated VAT. But if they didn't have VAT on their rent and they don't have like high lease costs with VAT on, then it's probably potentially more suited to flat rate. So it would be running the numbers. There's like simple calculations you can do that look at the amount of VAT going through the business. And obviously with gyms, it's like 8.5%, and the first year it's discounted to 7.5% that you pay over to HMRC. But yeah, it's speaking to your accountant and, hello.
Just on the flat rate scheme, we initially were on a flat rate scheme, so we had to backdate our submitted to your client, which was horrendous. Luckily we weren't investigated, it wasn't that bad. But we did the flat rate scheme initially, and we just then felt that it bought us maybe a year to kind of gather our costs together and kind of think, okay, we're planning for the 20 now. But I don't know whether you found this surprising, but we didn't actually feel it gave us a lot of breathing space with the on costs of the staff and leases and the staffing costs for our business, because we run a sport therapy clinic and a gym as one. That the staffing costs were just too high to facilitate the flat rate scheme. Is that something you found quite a lot as well?
So with the different VAT schemes, they're actually not there to support you in paying less VAT. That's not the point of them. The point of flat rate is to make it easier for business owners, because you're not having to collect all the VAT receipts and calculate it, which is obviously a more complicated calculation. And with flat rate, everything is 20%, whereas with standard rated, if you do have some exempt supply, then it would be calculated with the exempt supply and then the VAT up to 20% supply. So flat rate can benefit, but it's normally not a significant amount of money. One of my clients is going VAT registered now. I think it's like 3K for the year, that she's better off at flat rate. But the accountant cost would be more if you pay an accountant to calculate it, and the process you have to go through is more complicated, so it takes more time. So yeah, it's not necessarily financially better or significantly better to be flat rate.
If we just it bought us a little bit more time to kind of to have a slightly lower bill. But and then when we expanded again, there was no other choice but to go on 20, because then you can claim back everything. And if you want to grow, there's just no way through the VAT other than to grow through it. And
Yeah.
we just have to bring it down in the end. But I mean, we're still feeling the pinch with it at the moment, but we just thought we just got to get our ducks in a row and do it. But if you've
Yeah.
got a bigger team, the flat rate just didn't work for us.
No, because there's no VAT on staff costs. And that's the point. Well, the point you're making is it's really important to be reviewing your numbers regularly, because like these clients, they were not reviewing their numbers. So they went through VAT threshold, didn't know. So then when we went back to do the calculation, there was no going back to your members and asking for 20% more. Like, that's just coming straight off your bottom line. And because they didn't know it, that's what happened. And they did have very high equipment costs, so that's why we got such big refunds in the business. But they still had the problem with, we were scrabbling to fix this problem and we weren't fixing the problems going forward. Whereas one of my clients, we regularly review his numbers, his accounts are up to date, and we could see if he carried on the same trajectory that he was going to go VAT registered in about 4 months. So he was at the point of price increase. And instead of just going with what he was going, we actually considered we're going to have to think about VAT in 4 months' time, so we might as well think about it now and put a bigger price increase through, admittedly not the whole 20%, but he was able to price that into his prices rather than putting the price up, then 3 months later, pissing off all these members, by increasing it again. And that's the benefit of really understanding and planning your numbers, is that you can make business decisions. And like, if you know you're going to grow and you're just going to go through flat rate pretty quickly, you might as well go to standard rate almost and just get on with it, because then you're learning how it works, what the processes are, and if it's only going to not save you much money, then. So that's the benefit of reviewing your numbers. And you might be stressed looking at your numbers. Like, I know it is stressful, I know it can upset people, but the long-term implications of not doing it are so much more significant. So the client who went VAT registered, I'm literally like at this point trying to produce his accounts. He finished end of June year end because he's going to buy a house. And this is something we discussed 3 years ago. How's he going to buy a house? How's he going to get a deposit together? What does he need from the business? And we could see what he needed. So we put things in place so he could do that. And so I need to complete his accounts because he's literally going to the brokers, you know, like mortgage brokers, to get his mortgage now, which is really exciting. And it's because we took the steps to look at the business and plan for his future and what he wanted. So reviewing your numbers, these are all questions within the workbook, and it's about reviewing your numbers. So do you look at your numbers regularly? What was your profit in the last 12 months? Does anyone know? No? You don't? Roughly. And what was your profit for last month? So it's obviously like the 3rd of July, so I'm not expecting you to know June, but I am expecting you to know May. So what was your profit for May? Does people know what the profit for May was? There's a few nods. Cool. Because you should be turning around, like understanding what your profit is for the month within probably a couple of weeks of the month end. When I was in corporate, we would turn it around in 2 days, and we were talking billions of pounds that we were looking at. So we would turn it around in about 2 days. So knowing it with maybe in a week or two would be a good place to be. And how does it feel to look at your numbers? And I think that's really important. And I know it can seem wishy-washy when we're talking about financial strategy, but realising and taking into account how you feel when you look at your numbers is important. Because if it's making you feel a bit sick, if it's making you want to throw it the other way, if it's making you want to run away, that's an important emotion to pay attention to, because why is that? What's stopping you looking at it, and what's it going to stop you doing in the future? So what prevents you from regularly reviewing your numbers? And what's the consequence of you not looking at your numbers? And I think if you look at the consequences of you not doing this, it might scare you enough that you actually do it, because your businesses should be generating you money. They should be helping you enjoy your life, and they should be providing you for the future. Be that actually putting a pension for your business, because I know so many business owners do not have a pension, or planning your exit strategy for your business. It's really, really important. So what action are you going to take today because of this talk? You're going to look at your numbers?
Can I ask a question regarding partial exemption VAT?
Oh my God. No.
It's been quite helpful in my business to be able to utilise that and help with the VAT. And I think that might be worthwhile to touch on that. If you could just explain what it is. For some people maybe who don't try and utilise that within their business.
So in what sense do you use it? Is it like on certain products that are VAT exempt?
The way I've used it within my business is the within a 12-month
Oh, right, yeah.
contracted price
Yep, yep.
and an annual?
Yeah. So you can't do it if it's flat rate. If you're flat rate, everything's 20%, doesn't matter. If you're standard rated, I've done this with one client because a lot of gyms now are just rolling monthly, so they don't tend to have the annual contracts quite so much. Certainly not with my client base, we don't. But I've done it with one of my clients, and we got 20 grand back on the first application, and they'd been in business for 3 years, but obviously that was like 2020 to 23 when COVID was around. And we get about 2K a quarter deduction from the VAT return. So what they do is that annual membership is, let me get this right, a lower price than if you pay monthly. And that difference is what we call a finance charge. And that finance charge can be VAT exempt. So every quarter, we calculate the rolling quarter in terms of what annual members have gone through the system for the past year, and then we calculate the difference in price and then the VAT impact on that, and we make a claim from HMRC. There is a video on YouTube, I can't remember the guy who does it, Tom someone, I think, who speaks to a finance, like VAT specialist, who goes through all this, obviously, because it's quite complicated. So if you wanted to understand more information, I can get you the link to that guy. I think they start at about 5 grand to do a claim. But like I said, I got 20 grand back from my client. And there's things you need in place, like your contracts have to have certain wording, so you don't have to be regulated by the FCA. You have to have annual contracts. So every year, your customers have to receive a new contract and be aware that they're signing up for another year. You have to have wording in the contract around the charge and make it very clear. The staff have to talk to the members about, make sure they understand it. There has to be a pricing differential on your website. So you have to be very, very, very clear about what you're doing. So if HMRC were to come and look, you can be like, this is my staff training, they understand it. This is my contract. This is my website. These are the spreadsheets that calculate it all. And that's why we make the claim. But HMRC just paid. They've never looked into it. So when I did it, I provided all the spreadsheets. I provided the legislation, can't say that word, codes, and I provided extracts of why we hadn't done it before, etc. So with HMRC, it's just about being very open, showing everything you've got, being very this is what we are, this is where we are. And that's what I do with my clients when they use Xero or another accounting software. We make sure everything goes through it. So then if HMRC come in, we can just be like, it's here, we have nothing to hide. So again, by being on top of your numbers, HMRC will have more trust in you and what you're doing. So yeah. And they're on the back, they're in the booklet, but there are 2 QR codes. One is for freebies, which is the 12 steps, which takes you through cash forecasting, pension, etc. Next one's mindsets. There's more questions around how do you feel about the numbers, etc. There is a tax checklist in there. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow and if it's all going to change, because we haven't had any change in tax legislation for a few months now, whilst Parliament's been out. And then the ebook. So it's an ebook that takes you through understand your sales, understand your budget, creating a forecast, and making sure your business aligns with your personal goals. It's £47, but if you go on the code, it's 27 pre-sale and comes out on the 15th. Does anyone have any questions? Not more VAT.
You mentioned the accounting software. I was using QuickBooks for a while.
Yes.
Launching new business shortly. Is there a better one out there?
It tends to come down to personal preference, really. So I like Xero. I do not like QuickBooks, but that's just personal preference. And I find it easier to use, etc. But QuickBooks is just as good as Xero. You can connect your bank in, you can put your receipts in, and you can connect forecasting software, etc. So Xero does payroll, yep. Yeah, you can do payroll. Not many accountants really like payroll, Xero's payroll, to be honest. It's okay for like directors. This is pretty easy. Once you start getting into like statutory maternity pay, paternity pay, sick pay, all those sort of things, most accountants are not that keen on it and like prefer something like Bright Pay, but it does do payroll.